Well, hello and welcome back to Kimmel and Cox, your source for all things entertainment. I'm Keith Cox. I'm joined, as usual, by my good friend Dylan Kimmel. And if it's your first time joining us, we're glad you're here. But be sure to go back and check out some of our previous episodes as well. There's some pretty good stuff in there, so go back and get caught up if you get a chance.
Yes, there's some good things in there. You'll find something you'll enjoy, I'm sure.
Oh, I think so. Now, Dylan and I are both avid comic book fans, both DC and Marvel.
Yeah,
and
I'm a big fan of.
Actually, it's very appropriate what he's wearing for today's episode. We are going to be talking about one of the DC heroes, in my opinion, the best. At least my personal favorite.
Definitely mine.
There have been certainly a long list of movies that have been made about comic book characters over the years. But in today's episode, we are going to be talking about one of the most recent, and that is the Batman.
The Batman.
Yes.
Not to be mistaken for the 89 version.
Yes. So that's it's the Batman as opposed to just Batman.
What is the reason for most of these movies where they want to be differentiated from the original, so they put the in there?
Yeah, you gotta have something there to set it apart from all the ones that have come before. So the Batman released March 4th, 2022. Hard to believe it's already been almost a year since that came out.
Yes.
Written by Matt Reeves and Peter Craig, and directed by Matt Reeves, starring Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, Jeffrey Wright, Colin Farrell, Paul Dano, John Turturro, and Andy Serkis. Quite a cast there.
It was a really well-made cast, honestly. There's not a name in there that I'm not like, ooh.
Yeah.
Well, you might have been a little bit questionable about Robert Pattinson at first. But
yes, I was actually going to dive into that first because I think I was in a group with a lot of other people when we first started hearing rumblings of a new Batman and that they had cast him as Bruce Wayne and Batman. I thought to myself, the Twilight guy, I wasn't seeing it. That's the thing for me is like I have to be able to visualize that actor as the character, and I just couldn't quite do it.
Well, the interesting thing about that is that I have learned from several times over that the fan casting in the community and everything like that is can be quite toxic. They're like, no, we need this guy to play him. Usually when they first announced. I did this with Ben Affleck when he was announced because I was also kind of like,
because he didn't really have much success with Daredevil.
Yeah,
he's already played one comic book character, and that didn't go so great. So
no, it didn't go too good. Although the director's cut is actually a way better version than the original cut. I don't know if you've seen that version.
I haven't seen the director's cut.
I would recommend it. But what I did with Ben Affleck's Batman is a similar thing I did with Robert Pattinson's Batman, which is, I'm not saying their Batman. I'm saying I dived into some of their other repertoire. I dived into, because obviously this movie here, The Batman, was born from the ashes of Ben Affleck's failed attempt at a Batman solo movie. At one point, going back when he was cast as Batman, he was actually writing a script. That script was going to have Deathstroke as the main villain, which was teased in Justice League. I believe Deathstroke was looking to get at Batman because Batman was involuntarily responsible for the death of Deathstroke's daughter in that movie. Mm-hmm. And this whole story kind of leaked out, so that's why I know all this. So I kind of read all about that. It does sound like an exciting movie, but the sad thing is that during that time, the Justice League movie was not so well received. There was a lot of drama behind the scenes, and thus Ben Affleck was going through a divorce himself. Mm-hmm. He ended up he was almost borderline relapsing back into alcoholism and gambling and stuff, and he actually sent the script to Matt Damon. Matt Damon had read it. And this was undisclosed at the time that it was Matt Damon, but I'm pretty sure who else would it have been? That they're best friends.
Yeah.
Matt Damon says to him, "This is a really good script, but I'm worried for your health, and I think your health is much more important than doing a movie justice. So take care of yourself and do what's right."
Yeah.
And I'm afraid that you're going to go back to alcoholism if you continue down this, because you're not in a good spot right now.
Yeah.
So born from that is when we get Matt Reeves pitching Warner Brothers his version of Batman, and he said that this is the version that he wants, and if they don't want it, he's out the door. Mm-hmm. And this is what we got, because they were like, "Go for it. You made some of the best Planet of the Apes movies. We cannot contest. You know, you're a visionary."
It's like, just let you do your thing. But I kind of going back to what you said about, you kind of have to go back and look at an actor's previous body of work mm-hmm. before like really judging whether or not they can do something memorable with that character. And I had not really seen Robert Pattinson. Like I haven't even seen the Twilight movies. Like I've seen maybe like bits and pieces of them, and I was it just wasn't my thing. But like you said with Ben Affleck, he already had a great catalog of work leading up to that. So I was like, all right, we give him the benefit of the doubt. And as it turned out, Robert Pattinson turned out a really great, a fine performance.
Oh my goodness! I got to tell you. Okay, so here's the funny thing about this Batman. This Batman is sick, like mentally ill. Mm-hmm. Like the other Batmans, you don't really see that. But I mean, you kind of been like, you got to be crazy to be dressed up like. You hear that from all the actors. But he actually showed you that, you know what, you don't really want him to be raising Robin.
No,
he's not mentally.
You can tell that he has not fully recovered from the death of his parents, and he's still holding on to a lot of psychological damage there.
It is much more present in this than any of the others. And it's, I mean, I do think he did a great job as the Batman. And in this Batman, it is grounded in a reality that makes the Christopher Nolan movies look like fantasy.
Yeah, and that's something that we're used to seeing with a Batman movie. It's over the top action. The characters are outlandish. The villains are crazy, kooky, and just it's because it's a comic book movie. So you expect to have a little bit of a cartoonish flair almost to them. So this movie definitely took it in a different direction, much more serious. Batman movies have been on the darker side since the 1989 film, but then they gradually started like veering more towards campy a little bit, and then with the Christopher Nolan movies, they got back to the roots. They got back to that darker side of the character, but this one really brings it out in a different way, and like you said. I feel like this movie is more grounded in realism than the movies that preceded it.
Yeah.
So the movie opens with a murder, with the murder of the Gotham City mayor, and so we've got that sets up the you get right from the beginning, you get the sort of strained relationship that Batman has with the Gotham City PD. It's something that I noticed. Like, obviously, he has a different sort of relationship with Lieutenant Jim Gordon, but the rest of the police department just think he's a freak. You know, he walks into this crime scene, and immediately everybody's just like, "Whoa, hey, where are you going? Guy in the bat suit, where do you think you're going?" Because you think about that, like that has to look ridiculous to them, like somebody walking around like that, and so they just. Even though, going back to Batman's origins in the comics, he was billed as like one of the world's greatest detectives. And so he's basically kind of been deputized by, unofficially by the police department, but he's also looked at as a vigilante. So they're like, we can't condone someone like this being working directly with the police department and kind of being partnered with us, but they also knew that he could do things that they couldn't do. Yeah. But there was that tension there throughout that whole scene where it's they're recognizing, oh, this guy actually knows what he's talking about, but they're still just not really on board with that whole idea.
What do you think of the design of the character? The interesting thing is that Matt Reeves had talked about when he was developing his Batman and everything like that. The one thing he pitched to everyone is that he envisioned his Bruce Wayne as Kurt Cobain.
So yeah, it's an interesting take on that, but I can kind of see that.
Yeah,
it's very a little bit disturbed.
Which I guess that says a lot about how he used that very music from Nirvana.
I thought that was the inclusion of that was interesting, and a little bit that kind of added to that sense of him being such a troubled person. One thing that stood out to me at the beginning of the film with the thugs, when he confronts the thugs, and he steps out of the shadows, and one of the thugs says, what the hell are you supposed to be? And then everybody's kind of waiting for the classic, I'm Batman. You're really expecting him to say that, but instead he says, I'm vengeance.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I love that line because, one, it kind of hints to... Now, there's a overall theme throughout the movie about vengeance and everything. But I don't know if... You're familiar with the animated series.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Do you know... And I imagine you know that line that Kevin Conroy would say. It's a classic line. Now, he does say, I'm Batman, but he also says, I'm vengeance. Now, he says, the line goes, I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman.
I remember that, yeah.
So I was actually halfway expecting like that full line,
Yeah, but that was a nice change from, what we're used to seeing. It is like, because sometimes there's a tendency to be a little bit too on the nose with stuff like that. But the fact that they didn't do what people were expecting, was good.
Subvert expectations. I loved that this movie did that, because that's the one thing that I love about a good movie. Like everyone is expecting this, so go the opposite direction.
Exactly.
Which is one thing. One of the notes that I had on one of the scripts that I got too is like, we expected it to go this way, but you steered it this way. And I was like, well, that's a great compliment. And I think Matt Reeves done that in aces with this movie.
Yeah. Some other things that I kind of thought were just interesting. I was actually watching the movie again with my family because I had only seen it once when it came out in theaters, and so I wanted to go back and examine it again before we did this episode. And one of the things that my son-in-law brought up, it was something that I hadn't really considered before. But as far as the look of the character, we were talking about the black eyeliner, around the eyes, and of course I said, well, they've been doing that ever since the 1989 Batman. And I said I always thought the reason for that is to by putting the black around the eyes, it basically makes the eyes kind of blend in with the mask, so it all just looks like one cohesive piece.
That was basically what it was for.
Yeah, but he brought up an interesting point too. He said it's not only that, but it disguises his true identity much more easily, because in this movie he also wears contact lenses when he's Batman.
Yeah,
because he has these special contacts that actually have cameras built into them, so he can literally record everything he's seeing.
Which is something that's in the comics too, but they haven't really done it in the movie.
They haven't, done it in the movie. So if you think about that, like different colored contacts plus that black eyeliner makes it very hard to tell who a person is. It's not like. It's not like the Clark Kent thing where that was a little bit like you had to, it's sort of, it's funny, it's like tongue in cheek, but it's like, can everybody really, do they really think that he looks that different just by putting glasses on? Like you can still tell it's the same person. Like, hey, that's
you don't know who I am, right?
Right. Yeah. Where'd Dylan go? So it's that, but it was that kind of thing, and that made sense to me. Like when he said that, it's like, oh, I hadn't really thought about it that way, but because the eyes alone tell so much.
Yeah.
You could even if someone's face is mostly covered, you could recognize them by their eyes or by the the features around their eyes. So him doing that just made that a lot more difficult for people to figure out who he was.
And I do think it was kind of a funny thing, like even Matt Reeves had said that in an interview, that he thought it was ridiculous that when the mask, people like the past Batmans would have the mask and take it off, the eyeshadow would just disappear.
Yeah.
And he thought that was ridiculous because everyone knows they're wearing eyeshadow.
Yeah. That's there's really no point in trying to cover that up. But pretty cool things with the suit this time around. He's got some new features that we haven't really seen in other Batmans, like the bat symbol on his suit actually detaches from the suit, and he can use that as his batarang. And then he also has the ability. He has like a wingsuit. Where this, I don't know exactly how it works, but it's like basically this device comes out from his suit, and literally it's almost like kind of like a parachute.
I mean those kinds of wingsuits
to be able to fly.
Those wingsuits really do exist too.
Yeah.
So
it's a very practical, real world kind of thing.
And honestly, the bat suit in this one is very much more homemade.
Yeah. And that's kind of a theme that we see throughout the movie, which I'll kind of talk about, in different places. But the idea that because basically this is supposed to be Batman is like in basically year 2.
Second year, yeah.
So it's he's still he's been doing this for a little while, so it's like he pretty much knows what he's doing, but he's still very new to all this too. So he's not as seasoned as some of the other Batmans have been in the past. And we see that, like later in the film, we see that he's not, he's flawed. He makes mistakes.
Yeah.
But there is that homemade sort of vibe to a lot of his equipment and vehicles and things like that. It looks like like he could have made them himself very easily. Even the bat signal, where before usually it was you'd have some sort of like the bat symbol would be an external piece that would just be attached to the spotlight to create the bat signal in the sky.
Yeah.
But the one for this movie seemed a little bit more like he just cut it, cut it out of metal and stuck it in there, and it was not it wasn't polished, it wasn't perfect looking, so
there was a rumor, obviously it was false, but there was a rumor going around that the bat symbol was actually made out of his the gun that killed his parents. Would have been an interesting thing, but that actually is precedent in one of the comics there. It was a comic, I believe it was written by Kevin Smith. I could be wrong on that, though. So I could be wrong. But I believe it was Kevin Smith that wrote a comic where Batman's logo was made out of the...
out of the metal from the gun. That's an interesting... take on that.
Another interesting thing. Now, I can't help but put in parallels to this and another game, because I don't know if we want to get into it just yet. What was your next note on there?
I was kind of going to start talking about the villains in the movie next. So
now, just clue me in when you're going to talk about the parents, the big twist about his parents.
Oh, right. Yeah, I do touch on that.
Okay, because I did want to point out something that's kind of parallel to that, to something else.
Yeah.
So,
but getting to the villains, which is something else that everyone looks forward to, loves to see in a Batman film, and how those villains are portrayed. So. Colin Farrell as the Penguin, like I loved his realistic take on that character. It was so different than anything we had seen before. Yeah, with the whole, he's basically like he's basically like a mob guy. He talks with like a New York accent. Yeah, something we haven't really seen before. He doesn't really, other than the fact that he walks with a limp. And his face is scarred, and he does have a bit of a kind of a long sort of beakish nose, but he's not playing it like like Danny DeVito or Burgess Meredith, people like that have played that character in the past. He's not being ridiculous. He's not making penguin noises. He's not walking around talking like that, going wah, wah. It's like he's like you feel like if the Penguin was a real person, if he existed, he would probably be much more like Colin Farrell's character.
And another thing is that he actually hates being called the Penguin.
Right. Yeah, because his name is actually Oswald Cobblepot, and people call him Ozzy. His friends call him Ozzy. And
another cool thing. I don't. Maybe some of our listeners might want to know this if they're wanting some more Batman. We are getting more Batman. There's going to be a sequel, but also in between that, there's going to be an HBO series that is set with the Penguin being the lead.
Okay.
And I believe they're filming it right now. They may not be, but they're filming it sometime this year, I know. But that will lead up to the second one.
Oh, gotcha.
So I don't know what the second one's going to be. No one does. But it does seem like Penguin might play a key factor in the next one. So Matt Reeves has made the big statement that the one flaw about the past ones, about any superhero movie, honestly, whenever they get into a sequel, especially in the early days, is that the villain usually takes the forefront. Because everyone just wants to watch the villain go at it, and then Batman stop them, or Spider-Man, or whatever the superhero is. But Matt Reeves has stated that this will be Batman's story. It's Bruce Wayne's story. Yeah. He's the focal point. He's going to be the focal point throughout all the movies that he's going to make. So, and I don't know how long he's going to make them. I don't know how many more, but we'll see.
It is true. The villains did take a little bit of a back seat to Batman in this one. They weren't quite as like the scenes that they were in were great, but it wasn't like before where definitely they were a little bit more driven by the actions of the villains, and so because you had to have a reason for Batman to come in and thwart their plans. Paul Dano plays the Riddler, another very very different spin on that character than what we had seen
because
plays like really sadistic and just
you
psychotic.
you got the serial killer Riddler on this one. You got a Zodiac version of, which honestly Zodiac is probably the real life Riddler, but it's just mind boggling just how good of a Riddler, because when you watch him you're like, oh, he's messed up too. Like, you're watching a movie full of like sick people, really.
Yeah. Well, and I thought it was interesting too that he chose to disguise himself. Like he's wearing a full mask and suit and goggles and everything, so nobody can tell who he is. Before, the Riddler has always been very like kind of flamboyant and just
look at Jim Carrey's performance there, and before that Frank Gorshin.
So there's none of that with this version of the Riddler. It's kind of there's little hints of like if you've ever seen the Saw movies, there's a little hint of
the puzzle tree and everything like that,
and sort of like it's like would you like to play a game? It's like that sort of
that sort of sadistic
tortures his victims, and so there's none of that goofy, outlandish like that we've seen with the Riddler in the past, like the crazy giggling and
almost borderline Joker in a way.
Yeah, but it's like more just I guess, like I said, just kind of sadistic and sick is really the best way you can describe that. We have Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman, who kind of rides the line between she's technically a villain, but she also kind of there's always been that relationship between her and Batman where there are some sparks there. There's a different kind of relationship with those two, and she kind of helps him too because she does like him, but technically she would be a villain as well. And I thought she did a good job with the character. I can't really say that she's my favorite Catwoman.
She's certainly not the worst.
She's not the worst.
The worst to me was, and I'm so sorry because she's a great actress and everything, but Anne Hathaway.
Right. Yeah. That I don't know if it was because leading up to that, she was so used to sort of playing these sort of wholesome girl next door types, or it was very kind of hard to buy her in that role. And I will say that
now Catwoman's had a certain style throughout the years. It's changed constantly, but in the comics, she does. In the more recent years, she's had short hair, much like
Halle Berry. Or is that what you were thinking of?
Like her, and how Miss Zoe Kravitz has it, like that short.
Yeah.
And honestly, I prefer Catwoman to have that short hair too. It just looks right.
Yeah.
It certainly fits with her personality, I think. Now, the best Catwoman, I'd say, probably was Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just her portrayal of the character, she might not have.
And now that we said
the look that we're used to seeing with Catwoman, but I thought the way she played it was.
And then you mentioned Halle Berry. I was like, oh wait, I take back what I said about Anne Hathaway. Her Catwoman was actually pretty bad. Here's the funny thing though, that one is not Selena Kyle. That one's a different cat.
Oh right, yeah. I forgot about that.
So funny thing about that one though, I don't know if you knew this, but this is getting off topic of this main one here. But that Catwoman was actually supposed to be the spin-off of Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman.
Right. Yeah, I remember that. And that's why the costume looked very similar to Michelle Pfeiffer's.
A little bit more. I mean, it shows a little bit more skin, but
yeah. But yeah, and it's a shame because I would have been interested to see that spinoff if Michelle Pfeiffer had done it. the villains in the movie definitely don't disappoint. Like I said, I really enjoyed Colin Farrell. That was a funny thing I meant to mention was that I remember when they first started talking about making the movie that I remember that they cast him. But then, like before I saw the movie, I had forgotten about that detail. I had forgotten that he was the Penguin. So, for the first several scenes, the first time I watched it, I didn't realize it was Colin Farrell.
My dad didn't know.
The makeup was so good, and the way that he played the character. And then it dawned on me later. I was like, shit, that's Colin Farrell. I totally forgot that he was playing the Penguin. And that's a testament to not only the makeup artist, but to the way that he played the character.
I would say that he's a much better Penguin than he was Bullseye.
Yeah.
Plug in right there. I almost forgot that he was in Daredevil also. So that's another
connection there. So, but yeah, I thought he was great.
Not really a plug-in, but.
Every scene that he was in was good.
Yeah.
But kind of getting back to where we were talking about earlier with Batman being flawed, and he's not a perfect hero by any means.
Yeah.
A good example of that was there's a scene where he jumps off of the roof of a tall building, and he's uses his wingsuit to fly down. Mm-hmm. Well, things are going pretty good for a little bit, and then he ends up hitting his head as he's landing. He ends up hitting his head on an overpass, and just about like knocks him out. And so, but I liked that, because it shows that he's human. He's not a superhero. He doesn't have, it's just the only reason that he's really able to do the things that he can do is because he has the wealth and the resources to build these gadgets and everything. Mm-hmm. So, but again, he's still fairly new at being Batman, so he's still kind of figuring some things out. And I do like the fact that they showed him making mistakes.
He is a definitely flawed one. And that's one mistake. The other thing that there's a bit where just moments earlier before that scene, James Gordon says, "We need to get you out of here." He's like, "Okay, punch me in the face." And he punches him in the face, and then a few scenes later, he comes back. He says, "You could have pulled that punch." I did. Like, that was you pulling the punch. I hate to have seen you actually do it then.
Right, yeah. And then there's the we talked about sort of the homemade look or design to a lot of Batman's gear. The Batmobile is another example of that.
Yeah.
And again, it's different than what we've been used to seeing. And of course, when I think of a Batman movie, that's one of the things that I look forward to the most because I'm a big car guy. So the Batmobile has always been, one of the big selling points for me in any Batman movie. And this one, like, I didn't like the Tumbler. I didn't like the Batmobile from the Christopher Nolan trilogy.
It was too much of a tank.
It was more like a tank. We've always been used to seeing, the Batmobile as being a sleek, sporty looking machine. This is somewhat in between. It has that rugged sort of homemade feel to it. Like you could definitely imagine him building this thing in his garage.
You know what? You just gave me this really big plot hole in The Dark Knight and all those the original trilogy there. Hold up. Okay, so he's got this big giant tank. Clearly, someone with only money could actually get that, or even build it. Mm-hmm. You've got who's our biggest tech? Like, just think about all the police officers. Who's our biggest tech supplier in the city here? Wayne Enterprises. Maybe we should go there and investigate. I mean, my goodness, Gotham City really has the worst cops.
Yeah, that they haven't put these things together.
Yeah. It goes back to what we were saying about the Clark Kent. Oh my goodness! All the civilians and police officers in all of these comic books are idiots.
Pretty much. It's I guess you have to suspend your disbelief a little bit and just kind of go along with it.
Yeah.
But there's a great car chase in the movie between the Penguin and Batman.
I would say that is probably the best car chase I've seen in a long while.
Yeah, and it looks like a lot of it was done practically.
Yeah.
With stunts and everything, as opposed to
CGI
I couldn't really detect a lot of CGI in there, except possibly for some of the other vehicles on the road. It's more than likely. Most of them probably weren't there. You probably just had the two main cars that were like zigzagging, like they were driving, through traffic, and but a lot of like drifting and I love the moment where the Penguin thinks that he thinks he's got him. He thinks he's left him behind. Yeah. And there's this big fireball exploding behind him, and then the next thing you see is the Batmobile is like jumping through the flames, and the Penguin's looking in his rear view mirror. He's just got this holy shit look on his face.
Now here's the thing about this scene here. This is just one of those scenes where Matt Reeves just nailed the personality and the exact oomph of these characters, because in any of the other media aside from the movies, because I don't think, truthfully, the other movies didn't really get to the point where these characters were felt exactly like they did in the comic or any other interpretation, like TV, like animated, whatever. But that is just one of those scenes where I when I'm watching it, I'm like, you really nailed the Penguin's cocky attitude. Because the Penguin is a very cocky character, like in the comics and anything. He's very, very cocky, and he's very in over his head.
Yeah, for being such where people look at him as a freak, he has a lot more confidence than what you would think that someone who looks like that would have. But he's very sure of himself, and he thinks he should be running the show.
Yeah.
He thinks he should be basically. He doesn't think that Carmine Falcone, who's the local mafia boss, he really doesn't think that he deserves to be in that role. He thinks that he could own Gotham City. That's what he wants to do. He wants to run everything.
Yeah. And he, Colin Farrell's great at it. He really is. Honestly, I don't think Colin Farrell gets enough praise for how great of an actor he is. Honestly,
yeah, that definitely showed me a different range for him. A better range than what I'd seen before. And speaking of Carmine Falcone, that brings me to talking about some of the twists that were revealed in the movie.
Before we get to his big twist, I want to talk about the family big twist here. The mother and the father,
right, Selena's mother being involved with Carmine Falcone, and that he turned out to be her father.
Yeah, and then not only that, but so did but Bruce Wayne. There's a connection between Carmine and Bruce Wayne's family as well. And here's the interesting thing. This is what I was wanting to get at first here. There's a Telltale series called The Batman. And this Telltale series, it also does a similar spin that Bruce Wayne's family is not who they say they are. And they've actually been dealing with the mob, just as the Batman movie had said too. And for different reasons and everything like that. And it's just so interesting. And because in past movies, Thomas Wayne, Martha Wayne, they're like the hierarchy, they're the the kings and queens of Gotham, basically, and everyone like loves them. But in this one, you find out that they're not really all that good, and you found that out in the Telltale series too. And it's that was the first one that done a similar twist to that, and it was still just as gut-wrenching to see happen in there, because you're like, just imagine how you might feel if your parents were not as clear cut as you thought.
Yeah, it's when you find out that a lot of times you have an image of your parents that that they're not that they're perfect, but but that they're just. Sometimes it's hard for us to see their flaws, to see that that they're just like anybody else, and but yeah, in Bruce Wayne's case, he finds out that Thomas Wayne was part of a big cover up. You had the two major families in Gotham were the Waynes and the Arkhams, and of course Arkham Asylum was named after that family, and but anyway, it's like there was a big cover up, and we'd find out that Thomas Wayne actually had a reporter killed because he was about to uncover some information that he didn't want to get out because he was running for mayor.
It was information on his own wife, Martha, that she actually had to go to the mental institution.
And he didn't want anybody to find that out because he thought it would ruin his family's reputation, and I guess there was that pride and embarrassment or whatever that comes with someone knowing that about your family. And so he goes to Carmine Falcone and has him take care of it for him.
And that leads up to there's Selina has her own reasons for wanting to get after Carmine.
Because of he killed her mother, and so she has her own reasons for wanting to take revenge on him. And so you have it was interesting because you have her and Batman, like they both would like to see Carmine get justice, but Batman actually stops Selina from killing him, and we know because we've seen it before that at least later on Batman does not have a problem with killing people, but at least at this point, he still has some sense of as much revenge as in his heart.
Form of morals.
He still has some some morals there. And we talked about kind of the a little bit of the romance going on between Selina and Bruce, and the end the end of the movie.
This is a surprising end, honestly, because usually in pretty much because it's one of the few superhero movies where he's not actually facing off against the main bad guy. Right,
that's true.
And that just goes. I feel like Matt Reeves he broke the mold of the cliche. He subverted expectations in every possible way, and I applaud him for that.
Yeah.
That's a great achievement because he still made a really good movie. That's interesting.
Excuse me. So, so the end of the movie, the Riddler ends up being arrested and thrown into Arkham Asylum, and there's a nice little tease. We find that his not his cellmate, but the patient that's in the room next to him, we discover is actually the Joker. And so it's kind of setting up. I'm guessing, setting up things for possibly for the sequel. That the Joker will somehow play into that a little bit. We don't really get a good look at him because he's mostly in shadow in the scene.
Well, he does show up earlier in the movie too.
Did I miss that?
He does show up. Oh wait, no, you did miss that. They actually deleted that scene.
I was gonna say, I was like,
they deleted that
scene.
scene.
Like, I don't definitely.
It's still in my brain though, the deleted scene, because there is a deleted scene. And I guess I watched it over and over, and I thought, and then it fused into my brain that it was in the movie. It's not in the movie.
Yeah,
I apologize, but there is this.
It was supposed to be in the movie, I guess.
Yeah, and there is a deleted scene where Batman comes up to the Joker asking him for, information on the Riddler. Not that he knows anything, but just to see if the Joker could help him get inside this guy's head. And the Joker's instead he twists it the way he would and makes it to where he said, like, this is all about you, not him, and he starts laughing and everything. Now the Joker in this movie, he is played by I've forgot his name. I'm so sorry. But he was also in another superhero movie, Marvel movie, The Eternals.
Okay.
He's in that one. I can't remember his name. I'll put it in the
we'll make an editor's note.
Yeah, editor's note of who that. Yeah.
But
I do not think that they're actually teasing the sequel to that though, because there was a comment from Matt Reeves saying that he's not saying that the Joker will be the main villain in the next one. He's actually saying that trouble is always brewing in Gotham.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. I mean, that's just knowing that that there's other people out there that are lurking and waiting to make trouble in Gotham City. So that would be. I mean, that again, that he would be, as you said, he would be subverting expectations by doing that, because everybody would be thinking, oh, I guess the Joker is going to be the villain in the next movie. So if he doesn't do that, then he's going to throw everybody off.
Yeah. I guess we'll find out a little bit more details on the sequel to The Batman with the HBO Penguin show.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out. It was just kind of a side note. I was a little disappointed that the Batgirl movie, which was supposed to be an HBO exclusive, that got canned. You don't really see this much at all, but I mean, they finished the movie.
They finished it,
and then they just decided to pull the plug. Like, we're not going to show it. And I'm like, you get everybody's hopes up, and because Michael Keaton was going to be back as Bruce Wayne.
Well, we will still see Michael Keaton back as Batman with the Flash.
And the
movie.
Flash, yeah.
But the Batgirl movie, no. See, now that has to deal with. I don't know if many people know about Hollywood and how companies will buy out, other studios and everything. So AT&T used to own Warner Brothers. But for whatever reason, AT&T's like, I don't want to play with this anymore, and threw Warner Brothers out and put a whole big sale online for, or not online, but a whole big sale for Warner Brothers, and Discovery ended up buying it.
Okay.
And when Discovery bought Warner Brothers, they overhauled everything. So the leader of the CEO, or however you. I guess it's CEO.
Yeah.
He was looking at the last few movies of the DC movies and everything like that, and the track record, looking at Marvel, and it's like, clean slate. Let's, because he is apparently very notorious for canceling things when he feels they are not up to par. And apparently he did not feel like the Batgirl movie was up to par. He also said, because this movie was going to be on HBO Max, it was not going to be in theaters. It was
exclusive, yeah.
And he's like, no, we're only going to, because there was another movie called Blue Beetle that's coming out, and that was also going to be just on streaming as well. But that is going to be put onto theaters. He apparently felt that was good enough to be in theaters. But Batgirl, no. Which is very unfortunate because, honestly, it looks like a whole bunch of people were having good fun with that.
Yeah.
And apparently it looked more like a TV movie, and he did not like TV movies, and he brushed it aside. Mm. So that's what happened there.
Yeah.
Along with several other things. Speaking of, DC is having another overhaul because of they found their Kevin Feige. Kevin Feige is the leader. He basically overheads and produces all the Marvel movies. Mm-hmm. They found theirs in two people. One of them, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but the other one is very well known, James Gunn.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Guardians of
the Galaxy
and they've had several meetings with several people, and they have overhauled everything. They've clean slated. It's going to get restarted again, but the Batman, Matt Reeves' Batman, untouched. Everything else has been touched, fiddled around, thrown away. Doesn't matter. They're rebuilding. Because pretty much everything that you've seen up to, I don't even know, because Black Adam teased the return of Henry Cavill's Superman. I'm getting off topic. I'm sorry. Henry Cavill's not back as Superman, even though it's teased in Black Adam, because they came back and said, listen, we're going to do something else with Superman. So, yeah. And also, Dwayne Johnson as Black Adam. He might be out as Black Adam, too.
Well, that's
show business.
Yep, this is the nature of the business, nature of Hollywood. It's like things change on a dime.
Yeah.
But something else that I wanted to mention that I just thought was an interesting little tidbit that I didn't really realize it until I'd watched it again. But the Riddler is actually the only person in the movie to refer to Bruce Wayne as the Batman.
He is.
Nobody else calls him Batman.
No, everyone calls him Vengeance.
Right. You know, even Selena calls him Vengeance. So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing that because, and I think the Riddler also felt like in some ways that maybe he was
his they were equal.
Equal, yeah.
And he looked up to Batman, and Batman's like, I'm nothing like you, and he's like, no. Yeah, and that's also like I said about Colin Farrell and them nailing the Penguin's cockiness and everything like that. Really nailed the Riddler on this too, because he's that way in the comics also, even in the animated shows and the video games. Not so much in the movies up until now.
Very pompous.
Yeah, very, very. And now you get the sense that he's like feeling like he's superior to Batman.
Yeah, and whereas the Riddler is trying to elevate Batman even more, like he's because he does sort of have that. Yeah. He's got like a little bit of a hero worship thing going on with him in a sense.
Yeah, because they were both orphaned.
Yeah, and so he feels like he has that common ground with him, and almost like he's in some way like he's a brother or whatever. But I thought that was interesting that he was the only one that actually refers to him as Batman. So the movie ends basically with Batman and Catwoman kind of like going their separate ways. Both have kind of embraced their purpose. They know what they exist for and where their journeys are going to take them. Yeah. From there. So it's, again, instead of your typical heroes or whatever kind of riding off into the sunset, they don't really ride off in the sunset together. They start out together, and then they, it was a nice little the symbolism there was really nice. It's like they're they are a lot alike in a lot of ways, but ultimately they're going to be taking different paths, and so was nice that we kind of got to see that little split where they're like, as much as I would like to keep whatever this is going between us, ultimately I'm going in one direction and you're going in another. So
yeah,
but anyway, it's a good movie, definitely a good movie, and you should check it out, especially if you are a Batman fan. I would highly recommend it. There have certainly been worse Batman movies out there.
George Clooney.
Yeah, we definitely that was about as bad as it gets. And nothing against the actors, that were involved, but it just wasn't, it just script and everything has a lot to do with it. And if a movie is well written, then then it gives the actors more to work with. But did very much enjoy the movie, and I didn't really give it enough credit. I think the first time that I saw it, because everyone was, the consensus was everyone saying, "Oh, this is the best Batman so far," and I didn't really agree with that. I still don't know that I entirely agree with that.
I don't know that I agree with it either. I mean, for me, it is in the top three. There's top three for me. Batman '89 is number one. Oh crap! I forgot about the animated one. Okay, there's four. Okay, there's Batman '89, Batman: Mask of the Phantasm. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Yeah, because it was based on the it was a movie based off of the original, or not the original, but the animated series from the 90s.
Very good movie. Very good. Spoke to Kevin Conroy about it just briefly one year, and now he's gone. He's no longer with us. But The Dark Knight is another really good Batman movie.
Right. Especially The Dark Knight Returns. The second movie in the trilogy was my personal favorite.
Oh, Dark Knight Rises, you mean, or
no? Because you had
or Returns.
Well, because you had Batman. You had Batman Begins.
Yeah, it's Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises.
Right.
Yeah.
But so the Dark
Knight Returns is a different story.
Different
story.
I'm thinking about the comic book. The Dark Knight.
Although The Dark Knight Returns is a good comic book. But The Dark Knight Rises was really good, honestly. And then lastly for me is the Batman.
Yeah.
So,
and that's pretty much where I am too, as far as like rankings. I would put Batman and Batman Returns together, group those together would be the top, and then the Dark Knight trilogy, the Christopher Nolan movies, and I don't know, I liked Ben Affleck's Batman.
I didn't like Ben Affleck's Batman until the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League, because then I was like, oh, he actually is a good Batman. Yeah. He was not given enough credit. He was not given enough showtime.
But we haven't gotten. That was the thing. We didn't get a solo Batman movie with Ben Affleck because you had Batman versus Superman, Justice League. So he's always been appearing in other movies, but I did like his take on it. And then I would probably put the Batman, under Robert Pattinson. I'd probably put him under that. So,
we honestly have not had a bad Batman all that much. Not too
really.
often. No,
not really.
I mean, even George Clooney. I mean, I didn't like his Batman, but he actually did a pretty good job.
Yeah. He did, and so did
he done as well
Val
as he
Kilmer.
Could with what he had.
But
Val Kilmer was great.
Yeah.
But
again, it's like you can only do so much with the material that you're given, and they did the best they could with that. So.
I mean, Batman and Robin, it was nothing to do with George Clooney. It had to do with the studio wanting it to be more kid friendly.
Right, exactly. I wanted to sell toys. It was all a big marketing thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, be sure to check the movie out. It's pretty much, I think, on all the streaming services now. I know it's on HBO Max and I'm sure Prime as well. Pretty much everything's on Prime, so plenty of places where you can catch that. So definitely go and check that out. Next week we are going to be talking about a TV series. We haven't gotten into TV yet, so we have chosen to talk about a new series. It's a Hulu original series starring Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez. It's called Only Murders in the Building. And if you haven't seen the show, it's very good. There's two seasons out right now, and they are, I think, already in talks to do a third.
Yes.
Actually,
they're filming the third right now.
Okay. Yeah. So definitely go and binge watch those seasons if you get a chance. They're not very long. I think they're maybe like 10 episodes apiece.
Yeah.
So you could easily watch that between now and next week. But that's what we're going to be talking about. And before we go, as always, we want to remind everybody to subscribe, like, and share on our YouTube channel. And when you do subscribe, be sure to tap that little bell icon so that you can make sure that you're getting all of the notifications whenever a new episode drops or when any new content is posted. Also, don't forget to follow us on our socials. You'll find those links at the bottom of your screen, as well as down below in the video's description and at the end of each episode in the closing credits. So there's no way you can miss it. Leave your comments and questions for us. We would love to hear your feedback, and we just want you to join in on the conversation with us because that just makes it more fun for us. So, you can reach out to us by commenting on our YouTube channel or on our social media pages. And you can also email us at kimmelandcox@gmail.com. That's our official podcast email. So again, talk to us. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you think. If you have any suggestions for future episodes, things you would like to have us talk about, we can certainly look those over and you can be a part of that as well. You can also support us on our Patreon page. We definitely need the support of people like you, so go check out that page to learn more about how you can help, and we've got that link available for you as well. But that's all we've got for you today. We hope you'll join us next week, and until then, be good to yourselves, and we'll see you next time.